I went to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem earlier today, and I gotta tell you, I was really impressed.
Hey, guys, if we weren't monsters that were shunned by society and we could do what we wanted, what would you guys do?
Go to high school. Maybe get a girlfriend.
Can you imagine that?
Not likely.
This is how a retelling or a remix of a classic story should be done. This movie brings a familiar origin story that we know about the Turtles, updates it a little bit, adds its own flair, and still keeps the spirit of what the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are all about. I really enjoyed some of the changes that were made to characters. Some of them I didn't love as much as others. However, I was willing to accept it because I was having such a good time. The biggest change to the story is weird because it seems to be the most obvious and something that you wouldn't necessarily question before seeing this movie. At least I did. This was the first time that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles actually felt like teenagers.
Lob it up. Lob it up.
Stay still. Stay still.
Now. Oh! Let's try that again, but with ninja stars.
Hey, why did we pick a fruit shaped exactly like my head?
Just stop talking. You're ruining my concentration.
You're fine. Chill. He's gonna die.
Wait, did you hear that? What was that? Well, nothing we can do. You guys want to grab pizza?
Beforehand, we knew that they were the TMNT. However, I never really thought about how much these guys actually act like 20-year-olds.
Cricket? Nobody understands cricket. You gotta know what a crumpet is to understand cricket.
Looking back, Mikey was the only person to actually act like a teenager. In this movie, all 4 turtles act like a teenager, which actually brings a lot of fun to the environment because you're watching these kids really trying to grow up and navigate the world around them, especially since Splinter in this movie, who's a little bit different from our previous iterations of Splinter, in which he's the wise old man. Here, he's just a weary parent trying to keep his kids safe.
Boys, where have you been?
We're just running errands.
That's it?
Look, we're really sorry, Splinter. Some of the guys wanted to get pizza, and I tried to talk them out of it.
You ratted us out.
Hey, don't use that word that way.
I mean, it's 2023.
Sorry,
right?
Dad.
He doesn't have the mystique of ancient fighting techniques or anything like that. In the comic book, he's kind of a reincarnated person from feudal Japan. It's very different in the comics, especially the comics I've read from IDW that came out in recent years. I really enjoyed kind of the updates to the characters that were made, especially in terms of the way that they act and interact with each other. They are all still distinct and carry those individual personalities. Raph is still angry and wants to fight.
Enough talk! I dream about fighting every night.
You've got a rage problem, right?
snap.
It's not a problem!
Leonardo is still trying to be the leader, trying to be the upstanding guy. Donatello is still a very tech-savvy kid who's just really good at a lot of different things, including driving, which is really fun. And Mikey's still that teenager who's still outgoing. And some of the ways in which they express his outgoingness is really cool because it's much less him just being immature. It's much more of him being artistic and expressive, which is a really cool change to what we know about him. What I will say is this: I will still always enjoy those old turtle movies and the old turtle cartoons. Those things are not invalidated by me enjoying this. This is just an addition to my love for the turtles. I love this movie because I love these turtles, and I love the old movies because I love those turtles. It really feels like a multiverse kind of thing. Not to say that there's a multiverse involved. There's not a multiverse anywhere near this movie, but it's just a new iteration of the way that these turtles have lived and operated. Speaking of new iterations, we also have April.
This is insane. Turtle, mutant, karate teens. I want to know everything about you.
Our dad is definitely not a giant rat.
That makes me feel like he's a rat.
April's dope in this movie because she's not the established reporter that we're used to seeing. She's trying to come up too in her own way, trying to figure out how to navigate being a reporter, being a teenager in high school. They gave her a lot of depth and a lot of different ways for you to root for her. As a matter of fact, at certain points in the movie, I shed a few tears because of some of the things that April went through and accomplished. And I'm so happy that this version of April is voiced by Edebiri. I hope to God I'm pronouncing her name right. She's been awesome in so many different things I've seen her in lately, especially the bear. I'm excited for you guys to see this new version of April, who's really cool and really endearing and really funny, and a lot of funny things happen to her that I can't wait for you guys to see. There's one sequence that I will not give any details about that will be talked about a lot, might even be memed a lot. I mentioned Splinter earlier. who's being voiced by Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan does a phenomenal job with the voice work in this movie. He does give off Splinter, but like I said, he has his own characteristics that are unique to this version of Splinter. And I'm excited. Yo, there's some scenes in this joint that he's a rat, and they emphasize and make you believe he is a rat. So there's some nasty stuff that happens in this movie that I think might make people gasp a little bit. I gasped when I saw it earlier. It's a lot to love and a lot to be disgusted by in a way. But yeah, they do a really good job of making Splinter also endearing and having him being a realistic father figure to these turtles who are trying to kind of break from under his control, under his shell. That was completely no pun intended.
I can't believe there are other mutants.
You want to roll with us?
We get to meet a bunch of other mutants as well. We don't start off with Shredder in this movie, which I think is a really good choice. We start off with other mutants that Baxter Stockman is responsible for creating. Because of that, we get Superfly as our villain, voiced by Ice Cube.
Nobody's ever seen his face.
Why?
Because he kills everyone who does.
Cool.
No, not cool.
A bit cool.
Humans are never gonna like us. So we gonna let the mutants rule the earth.
Peoples, they got to go.
Y'all some little tortoises, huh?
Ice Cube is phenomenal as the voice for Superfly, and they do a lot of great character work with him. They do a good job of providing empathy for all of the characters in this movie. There's no one who's just kind of being a mustache twirling bad guy, except for one character who's kind of in the shadows a little bit. We get a really good, fun antagonist with Superfly. Also, I want to mention the music of this movie. The music is amazing because it's a bunch of 90s music. And I grew up in the 90s, so hearing this was really fun for me. A lot of Wu-Tang, which makes sense. Killer Bees on the Swarm, Wu-Tang Clan, Ninja Turtles. You know, it's all kind of mixed up in there. You could definitely see the Turtles listening to some Wu-Tang. But even though that they're listening to Wu-Tang or the Wu-Tang is in the background playing, they still feel like the teenagers of today. I'm excited to see if this version of the Turtles makes kids love the Turtles more. I mean, the kids have been loving the Turtles since before the 90s when Scott Eastman came out with the Turtles. Well, maybe not then, because his comics were hyper violent and also in black and white. You know, kids like colors. So maybe there were some kids who were out there reading that because their parents let them read something that they didn't really truly understand was probably not for kids. Just like me seeing RoboCop at 8. I don't even know if my parents didn't understand, more so than they just didn't care. Anyway, overall, I really enjoyed this movie. My rating for it, I want to say, is somewhere between a C+ to a B. It's a really good, fun movie. It's also not as good as some of the other animated films that I've seen this year, such as Spider-Verse. It's just a step below that. You can definitely see the influence of Spider-Verse's animation style on these new Turtles, which they did do their own thing in a lot of respects. So it's not a one-to-one copy of the way Spider-Verse does animation, but you can kind of feel some of the influence. What did you guys think? I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for y'all to see it and just tell me what y'all thought about it. And if you haven't seen the 1990s Ninja Turtle movies, especially the one that came out in 1990, and I believe the second one came out literally a year later. However, I will warn you about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, when the Turtles go back in time to feudal Japan, become samurai. I don't know if you know what, go see it for yourself. I'm not even going to tell you guys not to see it, but that's my review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I want you guys to go out and experience it, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. All right, guys, so that's it for me, and I'll see you next time.
In the beginning, we were crawling around. A nuclear mutation is what got us off the ground.